Northerly wind once again dragging in some showers, so mostly around coastal areas is where we'll see some spells of rain. It will start to feel that bit chillier once again, highs reaching around 9 degrees Celsius, so if you do see any sunshine, you have to wrap up warm to enjoy it.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Bold.
They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Feet earlier this year as part of the first group to trek the same route as Lawrence of Arabia.
A former Special Forces officer, Howard Leedham, followed in Lawrence's footsteps across Saudi Arabia and Jordan in a 25-day journey. And I'm very happy to say he joins us now. Howard, thank you very much for coming to see us.
Thank you for having me on.
Now, talk us about what you're putting on, having completed that remarkable trek.
Well, we did the trek in January and February, and I was odd enough to lead a team of Special Forces Club members to do the entire route that Lawrence did in 1917. 685 miles, 1,100 kilometres, took us 25 days. We started off with 5 riders, 4 riders made it, and the last 9 days we spent in Jordan. And one of the things that in Saudi, we would basically follow Lawrence's route from water to water and go to the same wells that he had gone, because that's what they had to do, as they worked their way around the Nefed desert. And then, obviously, when they came in towards Aqaba, because the guns in Aqaba all faced towards the sea, yeah. so they had to cross the uncrossable desert to get into the back of Aqaba. And when you come into Jordan, what strikes you is, because of the topography and because of the way that the history is so well recorded in that area, is that you can basically follow almost a precise route that he followed, and basically sleep in the same places that he slept, so you can really feel what they were doing and how they tactically moved down in order to take the port of Aqaba.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning and welcome to the Camilla Tominey Show on GB News. As the Chancellor's budget looms large, the country waits with bated breath to see whether Rachel Reeves will break some manifesto pledges. Labour MP for Derby North, Katherine Atkinson, will join me. I'll ask her what the British people need to brace themselves for on Wednesday, and why does she think the Prime Minister and the Chancellor are the least popular in history, according to new polling. I'll also be speaking to Shadow Chancellor of the Exchequer, Sir Mel Stride. I'll get his budget predictions, and what does he make to that leaked poll which suggests the Tories would win just 14 seats at the next general election. That's 14 seats. The former head of the British Army, Lord Dannatt, will join me for an exclusive interview. He says that the UK is entering the most dangerous security environment since the Second World War, and our armed forces are, quotes, woefully unprepared for it. Also, what does he make of President Trump's plan for peace in Ukraine? We'll get further budget reaction from businessman and author of Return to Growth, How to Fix the Economy, Lord Moyahan. And Robert Jobson, dubbed the godfather of royal reporting, will be here to talk about his new book, The Windsor Legacy. As ever, we've got a packed 90 minutes of punchy politics to come, so do not even think of going anywhere. But first, joining me now is GB News presenter. He's on at 11, so he's doing a double shift this morning, and former Defence Secretary Michael Portillo.
Good morning,
Camilla.
Camilla.
See you.
Lovely to be here.
Let's kick off with the budget then, because understandably, with it looming on Wednesday, the headlines are full of it. The Sunday Mirror. I can't think why Rachel Reeves has chosen to give her only interview to this publication, Michael. And funny enough, it's a positive write-up. I'll get a grip on cost of living. Chancellor says helping families is her top priority in budget, which is yet another pitch roll for this scrapping of the two-child benefit cap, I think.
Yes. Well, in a way, it's amazing to see the government giving any sort of coherent explanation of its economic policy, because so many Labour MPs are saying that there is no coherence to the government's position.
Right.
So at least the Chancellor here is saying her priorities are to cut inflation, to cut the national debt and to cut NHS waiting lists. Now, you can query the progress that she's made on any of those, but I would say at least this is a narrative. What it adds up to is that a lot of people are going to be paying more income tax, I think, not because the basic rate of income tax is going to go up. Rachel Reeves thought that was a bridge too far.
Yes.
But because the thresholds are going to be frozen for a very long period of time, and more people will be paying either 40% tax or indeed 45% rate of tax. One of the advantages of that is that it is quite stealthy. It's a stealth tax.
Yes.
And also that the Conservatives did it.
Yes.
Monstrously, if I may say so. And therefore, it would be very difficult, at least for the official opposition, to attack that with conviction and credibility, because the Conservatives depended so much on that.
Although, is it going to be credible for her to stand up this headline, working families will be at the front of my mind, if she does freeze those thresholds or even lower them or change them? Because, yes, I agree, it's not a direct increase on income tax, but if you're fiscally dragged into a higher tax rate band, you are paying more tax, and that is a tax on working people. Her definition of a working person is somebody, I think, on up to 46 grand. They therefore get dragged into the higher rate. So she has, if she does this, she's going to have breached the manifesto, isn't she?
Well, it doesn't really matter what I think about that. What matters is what the public thinks. And a more in common poll suggests that very large numbers of people would see this as a breach of the manifesto pledge. They're not particularly taken in by the idea that as long as you don't touch the basic rate of tax, that this can be regarded as not attacking working people. Of course, it very much depends on your definition of working people. And she could always shift her definition to a lower income. Because, I mean, a working person is evidently something different in Rachel Reeves' mind from a person who works.
Well, she's suggesting she isn't a working person. She's ruling herself out from her working person status. Presumably, then, the Prime Minister also isn't a working person. No MPs are working people, and neither are any ministers. And most civil servants. What on earth are they talking about?
Yes, no, it is very curious. One of the things that's very clear is that there is going to be more public expenditure in this budget, despite, how difficult the situation is. So there's going to be more transfer of money from taxpayers to other people. And two groups in particular, those who have more than 2 children and, rather oddly, train passengers.
Yes.
They're going to receive extra subsidy from the taxpayer. Now, whether you think this is a good idea or not...
You should be delighted about this, Michael Portillo, as a regular train passenger.
No,
fares frozen. This is great news for you.
You see, the taxpayer already puts vast sums of money into the railways.
And, by the way, fares are extremely high. I mean, thank goodness they're being frozen, because they're extortionate.
And by comparison with other countries. But what I mean is, whether this is politically clever or not, very much depends on your perception. Those people who have more than 2 children are a minority.
Yes.
Those people who travel by train are probably not a minority, but they're not necessarily a group that other taxpayers think are worthy. No. So whether these are clever political moves or not, I think remains to be seen. I think the most important thing to say about this budget is that this is a budget for survival of the Chancellor of the Exchequer and the Prime Minister.
And the government.
Well, no, I think...
Well, I only say that because Nigel Farage keeps on speaking about the idea of an early election in 2027.
I mean, of course, all things are possible, but I don't see any particular reason for that. But I mean, even number 10 has called into question whether the Prime Minister is going to survive.
Yes.
So that is very much on the cards.
What I'd like to know is, you've got more than 2 children and you use a train and you earn more than £46,000 a year. How are you classified by the Chancellor? We'll wait to hear that definition on Wednesday. Let's move on to the Ukraine deal, Michael, because I'm particularly interested in your view of the peace plan that's been put together. It's on the front of the Sunday Tell, in the other papers. And Trump is saying, well, hang on, this is just my starting point.
Well, yes, of course, that is not what he was saying 24 hours before. He said this was the deal, take it or leave it, and the United States was going to walk away. So it is very, very confusing dealing with Donald Trump. And I have been in the slough of despond and despair over this, because these 28 points are about as bad as they could be for Ukraine and about as good as they possibly could be for Putin.
Well, it's giving up land that they haven't lost during 2 years of ground
Can you
warfare.
imagine not only having to give up what they have lost to this banditry, this international violence, but on top of that, land that the Russians have not been able to take, and on top of that, disarming themselves so they can't prepare for an attack should Putin care to launch one in the future. Now, what I think I see emerging here is that there's a setup here for a sort of deal. Because I think the Europeans in particular are saying, oh, you can't possibly ask the Ukrainians to disarm themselves so they can't resist an attack, which is kind of accepting the territorial deal.
Yes.
And where I can see this coming out is that maybe they'll go easy on disarming the Ukrainians, but they'll probably impose the full territorial loss, which is a terrible amount for Ukraine to swallow, particularly after the sacrifice that it's made. And I would just like to emphasise that they made this sacrifice not only for themselves, I think they made it for all of us in Europe. They have been our front line. And Putin, is out to get us if he can. So I don't know why it's so difficult to convince Donald Trump of that.
Well, I'll also be speaking to Lord Dannatt about the peace deal and some of the manoeuvrings of the Russians in UK territory. John Healey, the Defence Secretary, has been warning against that and saying, get back in your box, but do we have the troops to defend ourselves should things get stepped up? Let's move on just very briefly. Just have a quick word about this. Mail on Sunday front page, Starmer piles pressure on Andrew to testify in US over Epstein. Keir Starmer is saying that he should give evidence to the US Congress. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, as he's now known, formerly the Duke of York, the artist formerly known as Prince, so to speak. Should the PM be interfering in this?
Well, of course, the Prime Minister does have a constitutional role to advise the monarch. There's no doubt about that. And, of course, in 1936, that led to the abdication. The whip hand was with the Prime Minister. This is a slightly puzzling intervention, and I don't know what provoked it, whether it was a question that was, unrehearsed or whatever. It's difficult for the Prime Minister not to be in favour of hearing evidence from a man who may have something to say about minors, girls who were trafficked and raped. Very difficult for the Prime Minister not to say that if somebody has information about these crimes, that person ought to be forthcoming with the information.
Especially as a former DPP, that's a good point.
Indeed. And so I think the Prime Minister may have found himself a little cornered on this, but I think he probably got it right. I mean, I think if he'd said, oh, no, I don't think this Andrew fellow needs to say any more, that would have been worse, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would be. And it should be pointed out that Andrew Mountbatten Windsor denies any of the allegations. We need to leave it there, not least because I know, but we need you to hot-foot it back to Paddington so that you can do your show after this show at 11. So we look forward to seeing you again on GB News very shortly. Thank you very much, Michael Portillo. Coming up next, I'm going to be speaking to the Labour MP for Derby North, Katherine Atkinson. I'm also going to be joined by Shadow Chancellor Mel Stride. What are the Tories saying about Rachel Reeves's forthcoming budget on Wednesday? Do stay tuned. This is the Camilla Tominey Show, only on GB News.
I hope we haven't forgotten anything.
Travel insurance, I tick that box.
Yeah, but remember what you forgot last year.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
The unsettled weather continues across the central Mediterranean. Heavy rain and thunderstorms expected here. Some areas could even see a month's worth of rainfall in just a few days. Mostly dry and settled across Madeira, but many areas of northern Europe are going to see a very unsettled day on Monday. The poorest of conditions likely across Italy and around the Adriatic coastline. Some heavy showers and thunderstorms here. Still a mix of sunshine and showers into next week with the best of the temperatures across Tenerife.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point.
Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Camilla Tominey Show on GB News. Joining me now is Katherine Atkinson, the Labour MP for Derby North. Lovely to see you this morning. Thank you so much for your time. So the message from the Chancellor about the budget on Wednesday seems to be as follows. Yes, brace yourself for tax rises, but don't worry, your already extortionate train fare is going to be frozen.
Well, I think that my constituents in Derby and those across the country who travel by our railway system, particularly commuters, will have woken up to the really welcome news that for the first time in 30 years, we're going to see rail fares frozen. And that makes a massive difference for people and is a stark contrast to what we saw under the Conservatives, where in 14 years we saw increases of 60%. And I think it's good news for drivers too, because the more people that use our railway, that means less congestion on our roads.
Well, maybe so, but I don't think people are going to be celebrating it if simultaneously they are fiscally dragged into a higher tax threshold, which means that they're having to sacrifice thousands of pounds of their salary. That's going to be a manifesto breach if she introduces it, isn't it? Because if you freeze the thresholds, it's a tax on working people.
I think the cost of living and tackling the cost of living is a primary concern for this government, and I think travel is a big part of that because it's 12% of households' income, And that is only one part of a whole range of things that we're doing on rail, which is delivering our manifesto commitments, because we're bringing rail back into public ownership under Great British Railways, which will have its headquarters where I am now in Derby.
OK, but if working people end up paying more tax in whatever way it may be delivered, either obviously or by stealth, in freezing thresholds, that means that working people will be taxed more, and therefore it's a manifesto breach, isn't it, Katherine Atkinson?
Well, we've only got a couple of days left before we find out what is in the manifesto.
We've already found it all out.
Well, I think there was lots of speculation last year as well, and what then was delivered is £24 billion for our NHS, and we've seen wages increasing and inflation coming down, and 4 interest rate cuts, which has managed to reduce people's mortgages. So I think we will wait and see what happens on Wednesday. But the cost of living
public sector wages
is crucial.
Public sector wages have gone up, junior doctors' wages have gone up, and yet still they're threatening strike action. Rail wages have gone up, and yet still they're threatening strike action. So many people listening and watching this will go, what's it all been for?
Well, we also saw the minimum wage go up, which for many that was £1,400 a year. We saw wages go up 10 times. We saw wages go up more in 10 months than we saw in 10 years under the Conservatives. So to see wages going up, inflation coming down, does mean that people feel better off, and that's what we need to see more of.
Do you know what else has gone up with the minimum wage? Youth unemployment. So in Derby North, you've witnessed a 15% rise in 18 to 24-year-olds claiming the dole. Youth unemployment is up to record numbers after the minimum wage was put up. So you're giving with one hand and taking away with another.
Well, we're taking really long-term decisions to ensure that we are delivering what we have committed to, which is to give every young person a guarantee of either training or education or work. And that's hugely important. For far too long, we had young people written off, and this government will not accept that, which is something I'm really proud of. In Derby, we make things, and we have incredible skills. And whether it's trains, planes, or submarines, we have got good, well-paid jobs, and that's what we need to see more of.
Okay,
which is
hang on,
why
Katherine Atkinson, I'm sorry, I've got to stop you there. I appreciate what you're trying to do. You're a Labour backbencher, but you cannot possibly say that you're investing more in young people when youth unemployment in your own constituency is up 15% in the last year. Overall, the figures suggest that youth unemployment has increased from a 14.8% a year ago to 15.3%. OK, so Labour has made youth employment go down. Unemployment is up. How on earth can you say that that is investing in young people? There's more people on the dole now than there was when the Tories were in power.
I absolutely want to see investment in young people, and I want them to have good jobs. I want them to have well-paid jobs that they can actually build lives and families around.
They don't have any jobs at the moment.
Well,
sadly.
what we have seen, and we've got more jobs coming, which I'm really pleased about. And in Derby, we've seen not only the £9 billion that Rolls-Royce, our biggest employer, has secured to deliver the nuclear reactors for our at-sea deterrent. We have also seen massive investment in small modular reactors. And we've seen massive investment. We've just had this week our Prime Minister announcing the deal that we've got for our civil aviation as well. So it's important that jobs are good jobs. And it is, I completely agree that it's important that we invest in our young people and in skills.
But that 50... Oh, you're frozen. Let's hope that you come back.
College for construction. And that we need more of.
OK, but this 15% increase in youth unemployment is absolutely the Labour Party's fault and not the Conservatives, isn't it? Because it's happened in the last year. It's happened in the last year.
I am impatient for change. I'm probably one of the least patient people you will ever find. And sometimes things can take time to turn around.
Right.
But we're seeing really tangible investment in our city. We're seeing really tangible investment in jobs going forward. And I do want to ensure that our younger people are benefiting from the new apprenticeships and the new skills and the investment that our city is seeing.
All right. A YouGov poll has put the PM and the Chancellor on the lowest approval rating of anyone in that post in history. Rachel Reeves at -57. That's lower than Kwasi Kwarteng. We then have a more in common poll which asked the following question, Katherine Atkinson. How much confidence do you have in Rachel Reeves to handle the British economy? Do you know how many percent said, I have a great deal of confidence in Rachel Reeves?
I don't. But what I do know is that
4%.
I have a great deal of confidence in Rachel Reeves.
Why? Because only 4% of the British public do.
Because I want to see us building in the foundations that we have seen put in place. And I am really pleased that for working people, we have seen those 5 interest rate cuts. I'm really pleased that we are seeing wages going up with inflation starting to come down. And I want to see even more growth that so much work is going into. We've had record investment. I want to ensure that everyone is feeling a part of that.
Well, government spending is at a record high. Taxes at a record high. We've now got her announcing that she probably will scrap the 2-child benefit cap. So Labour cannot be taken seriously at all on trying to bring the welfare bill down, can it? She just can't stop spending. She's like a drunken sailor, isn't she, Katherine Atkinson?
I definitely want to see investment, but Rachel Reeves has also been absolutely clear that we will not. We will ensure that when it comes to day-to-day spending, that will be paid from taxation, and that we will see debt coming down as a proportion of the economy. So
you're confirming that we're all going to be taxed more. So we're all going to be taxed more to pay for Rachel Reeves' spending.
I think that what is absolutely essential is that we continue to have the stable, unified government that we have seen to be able to continue to deliver our manifesto promises, because I want to see people better off. And in my constituency, we've seen one of our areas, Chaddeston West, which was completely ignored by the Conservatives, getting £20 million over 10 years. And those decisions will be decided by local people. It is about making sure that money goes to where it's needed. And I absolutely want to see opportunities for all people in my city. And I think that is what this government is trying and succeeding in starting to deliver.
All right, Katherine Atkinson, we're running out of time, sadly, but I think stable and united government perhaps isn't the right word to describe a government that's now being challenged by Andy Burnham, Wes Streeting and possibly Angela Rayner. Very final, quick thoughts, we're running out of time.
I think that it's much more fun for people to speculate. But I haven't had a single Labour MP come to me and say they want to change leader, because we're focused on doing the job. And that is about delivering real change for working people.
All right. Thank you very much indeed for your time this morning, Katherine Atkinson in Derby North there. Thank you. Coming up next, I'm going to be speaking to the Shadow Chancellor of the Exchequer, Sir Mel Stride. This is the Camilla Tominey Show, only on GB News. Lots more still to come, so please don't go anywhere.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. A cold and frosty start across the far north of Scotland. Elsewhere, a day of heavy blustery showers, though we are expecting it to brighten up nicely into this afternoon. For most, though, it is going to be a very wet start, some heavy downpours at times. Eventually, any rain will clear its way into the North Sea, allowing it to brighten up across many areas of England and Wales, but there will still be some showers, particularly across the west, so a day of sunshine and showers. But across Northern Ireland, parts of Scotland, perhaps some parts of Northern England too, plenty of cloud around and still plenty of showery outbreaks. Feeling quite cold across the northern half of the UK, but highs across the south reaching between 10 to 12 degrees Celsius, so a little bit above average for the time of year. Still plenty of showers in the west to end the day, and also some quite strong gusty winds pushing through into the Bristol Channel. A very unsettled end to the day too across Northern Ireland, northern parts of Wales and England. Plenty of cloud and some showery outbreaks, and fairly similar across parts of Scotland too. So it is going to remain fairly unsettled as we progress through into this evening. Now, Now, low pressure is the reason for this quite changeable weather, and it will eventually push into the North Sea. And with it, we do start to see a change in our wind direction, so we'll return to a more northerly flow of air. So it is going to be feeling a bit chillier once again as we head our way into Monday, and still very unsettled, still plenty of showers across the country. Lots of cloud though, so remaining mostly frost-free for a time, but it is going to still be remaining quite chilly as we begin the new working week. So lots of cloud around to start, but this should lift and break through the course of the morning, allowing some sunshine to develop mainly across inland areas, because that brisk northerly wind once again dragging in some showers, so mostly around coastal areas is where we'll see some spells of rain. It will start to feel that bit chillier once again, highs reaching around 9 degrees Celsius, so if you do see any sunshine, you have to wrap up warm to enjoy it.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you can enjoy Christmas on us. First, we'll give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash. Then we'll give you a further £10,000 cash to spend on all your Christmas presents, even the tree. Christmas lunch, that's on us too, with £1,000 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket. Finally, a GB News Christmas goodie bag. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB 17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Breast cancer is the most common cancer in the UK, and over a lifetime, 1 in 8 women will develop breast cancer. It's mostly affecting women over 50. As you mentioned before, it does affect a small proportion of men, less than 1%, but still there is a potential risk. The good news is, if caught early, survival is excellent due to improved treatments and new drugs. So 99% of women and men survive for more than 5 years if caught early. And overall, the breast cancer survival rate is about 85%, which is fantastic. It's important to know that you have to check. Women have to learn to check their breasts. So if you notice anything different, dimpling, change in shape, a lump, go and get it checked out. Even though survival rates are much improved, we do have less survival here compared to other countries. So, for example, in America, 90% of women will survive over 10 years if they're with breast cancer. So it is important to get checked out just as soon as you notice any changes whatsoever.
Why is there that difference, Lucy, between, say, us and America, for example?
Well, the UK lags behind generally in cancer survival, 10 to 25 years, they estimate, over a range of cancers. That includes prostate, ovarian, lung, breast and bowel cancer. And there could be a number of reasons, but I think part of the problem, the NHS is great when you get to the front of the queue, isn't it? But it's actually getting there.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good morning and welcome back to the Camilla Tominey Show. Lots more still to come. I'm going to be speaking to the Shadow Chancellor of the Exchequer, Sir Mel Stride. I'll get his budget predictions and what does he think of that leaked poll which suggests the Tories would win just 14 seats at the next general election. This was internal Conservative Party polling. So slightly scary for Mel Stride and others. The former head of the British Army, Lord Dannatt, will join me for an exclusive interview. He says that the UK is entering the most dangerous security environment since World War II, and our armed forces are woefully unprepared for it. What does he make of President Trump's peace plan in Ukraine? I'll ask him that too. And we'll get some more budget predictions from businessman and Conservative peer Lord Moyahan. and the latest from renowned royal author Robert Jobson on his new book. But first, here's your latest news headlines with Bethany Elsey.
Camilla, thank you. Good morning. Your top stories at 10 o'clock. President Donald Trump says his plan to end the war between Russia and Ukraine is not his final offer. It's after Ukrainian allies raised concerns over the proposals. The plans would see Kyiv hand territory to Moscow and place limits on Ukraine's armed forces. The leaders from Europe, Canada and Japan said the 28-point plan has elements essential for a just and lasting peace, but that it requires more work. Delegations from Ukraine, the US and the UK, as well as security chiefs, will meet in Geneva today for further discussions. Rail fares in England will be frozen next year for the first time in decades as part of government plans to move rail services back into public ownership. Ministers say the move will save millions of travellers hundreds of pounds. Off-season tickets, peak and off-peak returns between major cities. A typical commuter travelling to work 3 days a week using a flexi-season ticket could save more than £300 a year. The Prime Minister has urged anyone with information about Jeffrey Epstein to come forward after Andrew Mountbatten Windsor failed to appear in front of US Congress. Sir Keir Starmer says while the decision lies with the former Duke of York, his position is if you have relevant information, you should be prepared to share it. The King's brother is facing criticism from US authorities after he failed to respond to a request for an interview. And a gold pocket watch recovered from a passenger who drowned during the sinking of the Titanic has been sold for £1.8 million at auction. It was the highest amount ever paid for Titanic memorabilia. The 18-carat engraved watch belonged to the American businessman Isidore Straus, who died alongside his wife. You're up to date. More for you at 11 o'clock.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are, online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Thanks for that, Bethany. Joining me now is the Shadow Chancellor of the Exchequer, Sir Mel Stride. Sir Mel, I cannot believe what I am reading in the Sunday Express, which has interviewed you. Now, this is a question that you've resisted answering me for many, many shows. And listen to yourself now in this newspaper. Rachel Reeves should resign if Wednesday's budget results in more people paying more tax, according to the man who wants to hold her job. You've said, and I quote, "I think if she puts taxes up in this budget, having said that she wouldn't, and given the mess she has created, she should step down." Finally, you've had an epiphany, Mel Stride.
Well, I know you've been urging me, Camilla, and good morning, to be saying this for a very long time, and because I don't think you should run around constantly asking for everybody to resign over everything, but I think if we've reached the point where this government in opposition made a lot of very clear commitments, including in their manifesto, then promptly junked a lot of them and did different things in office, and has now arrived at a point where once again we are led to believe they will be putting up taxes on hard-working people, which is something that they've said they wouldn't do, then yeah, I think it's time for her to step aside, I'm afraid.
All right, so when should she step aside? Thursday, Wednesday afternoon?
Well, I leave that to for others to think about, but I think a position does finally become untenable if you go into a general election saying that you're not going to put up taxes on hard-working people, that you then do that because that's what National Insurance on Employers actually did back in October of last year. Then you have an emergency budget in the spring, in March, and you say that's it, end of, we're not going to be coming back for more and so on, not putting up taxes on hard-working people. And then another 6 months later, that appears to be exactly what you're going to do. I'm afraid there is a limit, I think, to everybody's patience in those circumstances.
All right, so who should replace her if she steps down?
Well, I leave that to others. I mean, if the Prime Minister's still in his position when all this happens, if it happens, then it'll be for whoever is Prime Minister at that time to take that decision.
Should it be a man? Because the Chancellor thinks that she's been treated in a sexist manner by being described as Rachel from Accounts and suggestions that she's out of her depth. Would a bloke do a better job, Mel Stride?
I am absolutely solid on the fact that it could be a man or a woman. It makes no difference. This isn't a question of gender. It's a question of economic competence. And I think all this mansplaining business is a bit of chaff. It's a bit of a distraction to try and get away from the basic facts, which we've got unemployment at a 5-year high. We've got anemic, flatlining growth. We've got inflation that's almost double the level it was under us, and we've got an economy that's in a very bad position, saddled up with debt, and we're paying 100 billion a year just on servicing that debt at the moment, and yet this government's going out and borrowing more money and spending more money and driving up inflation and putting us in a very precarious situation.
How much responsibility, let's be honest now, how much responsibility should the Conservatives take for what this budget is turning out to be, in the sense of all of the economic indicators that you've listed there? We could have equally applied to the last government, couldn't we?
Well, let's do that. So on the day of the general election, we had gone through a really difficult period with COVID and inflation coming as a result of the Ukraine-Russia war. But nonetheless, we had near record level of employment, near record low level of unemployment. We had inflation down bang on target at 2%. We had the highest growing economy in the G7, and we'd had 13 consecutive months of real wage growth. So that is the economy that Rachel Reeves inherited, and it hasn't taken her long to have put us in a very, very different position, I'm afraid.
But we also had, and you're failing to mention it, low growth, high tax and high spend. So the GB audience looks at you and looks at Labour and everybody giving their lines and just says, well, plus ça change. It's just a continuation of the status quo that was established for 14 years by the Conservatives.
So I think, look, there's a very different set of circumstances. Rachel Reeves has been the author of her own misfortune. It was her who chose to load a load of taxes on businesses and killed growth. They talked down the economy. They borrowed and spent a lot of money, which has driven up inflation and interest rates. And it's therefore no surprise we've ended up in this parlous situation. The situation during the last few years of the last Conservative administration were that we had COVID, which shrank the UK economy by over 10% overnight. You'd have to go back to the Great Frost of 1714 to have had any sign of that kind of shock hitting our economy. And of course we had the Ukraine-Russia war that put up inflation at the back end of 2022 to over 11%, and we had to bring that down. So nobody at that time was suggesting we shouldn't have been spending the money we were on supporting millions of jobs and households up and down the country. We did that, and we did it, Camilla, on the back of our previous record of having got the deficit down since 2010 when we took over from Labour. So we did it because we had a stronger economy that was able to do that. So I think
you did it on the back of taxpayers, I think. Also, I mean, when you talk about the difficulty of COVID, and we appreciate that, we appreciate furlough, there are many that think that Rishi Sunak, as Chancellor, completely mismanaged it, and no mention at all of the billions of COVID loan fraud that we had to also shoulder the burden for economically.
Look, inevitably, whenever something as cataclysmic as COVID, which, as I say, shrank the economy overnight by 10%, and people were then at that point speculating we'd have mass unemployment at a level that we'd never seen in our country in perhaps a century, big dramatic things had to happen, interventions, and it had to be done at speed. And inevitably, when you do things at speed on a large scale, mistakes are made, there are hard edges and so on. But I think most people would accept that we got through that period because of government intervention, because of furlough, which was largely a success. And we had unemployment obviously lower on the day of the general election than it is under this government. Under this government, Camilla, unemployment is at a 5-year high.
I've just pointed that out to Katherine Atkinson. On COVID, do you agree with Baroness Hallett's conclusion that it was Boris Johnson's fault that we didn't close down earlier and that the former Prime Minister is responsible for the death of 23,000 people?
Well, I think this is something that will be debated for a very long time, but inevitably, when something of that magnitude happens, not every decision would have been absolutely right, and it's impossible, of course, to know what the counterfactuals would have been with any certainty. And my heart goes out to all of those who perished as a consequence of this terrible virus that visited our country. I think we shouldn't also overlook that the report, if I may, Camilla, says that the vaccine rollout, of course, we were world leading in what we did with that, and that was on Boris's watch and would have saved countless lives.
The headline was Boris Johnson's basically killed 23,000 people unnecessarily because he didn't lock down soon enough. Is that right or fair?
Well, I think I've answered that question, which is
you haven't. No. Is it right and is it fair?
Like COVID, when something very significant like COVID visits our shores and you have to move at pace with something that is a once-in-a-century event, and there's no, it's not replaying something that's happened before, and therefore we've learned from that, inevitably mistakes would have been made. It's not possible to know exactly what the counterfactuals would have been, but it is certainly the case that where people died under those circumstances, then of course it's a matter of huge regret that would have happened. But I think that does have to be balanced by some of the things that absolutely were right, such as the vaccine rollout that would have saved many, many lives, and also having an economy that was strong enough actually to withstand the economic impact of that, and that is down to the work that we did on the economy when we came into power in 2010.
Why are the Tories only advocating £23 billion worth of welfare savings when Jeremy Hunt, writing in the Sunday Telegraph today, points out that actually if you returned working age welfare to pre-pandemic levels, you could actually save £47 billion, not 23. So you're actually being a bit too conservative, pardon the pun, with your own welfare savings.
Well, you get skewered either way, don't you, Camilla? You have people who say, well, that's far too much, it's unrealistic, and other people say, well, you could go much, much further. What matters here is that we have a proper, considered look at these issues, which is why we've taken time to come forward with that first instalment of welfare reform. And the second point I would make is what we've said to date, the 23 billion is a first instalment. We are still looking closely at welfare and a number of other areas, and wait till you see the manifesto in about 3 to 3.5 years' time, and then we will have our full proposals in there, and we will make sure we get the balance right between supporting the most vulnerable, which is very important in a civilised society, but at the same time understanding that it is hard-working taxpayers that foot the bill for those benefits, and that we need to get people off benefits and into work.
All right, Mel Stride, you need that manifesto to be good, don't you? Because internal polling reveals that you might be left with just 14 seats.
Well, it's not internal polling. There was no polling commissioned by the Conservative Party, and I believe it relates to a period last summer. But nonetheless, the substantive point of us having a major challenge is there, and we recognise that. What we are doing is ruthlessly holding this government to account, myself on the economy, on your show now, but also grooming gangs and inquiries, and Lord Mandelson and Angela Rayner, and making sure that we hold the government's feet to the fire. But we also do that deep thinking around the big challenges that we face as a society. At the heart of our economic offer, making sure we get on top of the size of government, get spending down so we can get taxes down and get the deficit down at the same time.
So Mel Stride, we live in hope. Thank you so much for joining me this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, he's changed his tune, resisting my call for the Chancellor to resign. Don't really get the point of opposition MPs saying that the Chancellor is economically incompetent, and then when asked, should she resign, saying, oh, no, I don't think so. So we've had a little bit of a shift. Maybe it's because Chris Philp, the Shadow Home Secretary, suggested she should resign last week. So let's see whether she remains in post after Wednesday or not, and who will then call for her to resign or not. As ever, let us know what you think. Do send in your comments and reaction to gbnews.com/yoursleigh. Your sleigh? No, your say. Although slay, I believe, is an internet term that we could apply to this show, actually. There's also a brand new way to take part in the conversation by becoming a friend of GB News for free. Let's take a little look.
Join the community and be part of our shows by becoming a friend of GB News. Get a direct line to join the conversations that you hear us talking about every day in our programmes by commenting on Your Say and voting in You Decide polls. Access opinion, analysis and behind-the-scenes videos as we share more from the stories that you see on TV and radio. Plus, watch our shows live and on catch-up anywhere, anytime. If you love our channel, become a friend of GB News for free by scanning the QR code or going to gbnews.com/friend. Don't just watch our programmes, come and be a part of them.
Slay. Now, coming up next, the former head of the British Army, Lord Dannatt, is going to join me to discuss that Ukraine peace plan and whether we're actually in a position to defend ourselves should the Russians attack. This is the Camilla Tominey Show, only on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power?
Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber.
Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics.
We'll see where this ruling takes us.
These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless.
I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it. Don't get this on the BBC. Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things up the car as we speak. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Camilla Tominey Show on GB News. The former head of the British Army, Lord Dannatt, joins me now. Lovely to see you this morning, Lord Dannatt. Now, you're giving this Bevan lecture next week on the eve of the budget, and you're going to be making some stark warnings about the UK's preparedness for war. What are you planning to say?
Well, Camilla, I think we stand at a very dangerous time, and I don't want to spoil everyone's Sunday morning. I think it's dangerous for the reasons you're just alluding to, that I don't think that we are sufficiently prepared to, not just for war, but to deter war. I think we're also at a dangerous point, because I think if anything like the peace plan that Donald Trump is proposing to the Ukrainians is accepted, then it places us in Europe in a very dangerous position. So we have got to really face the reality of the situation at the present moment. And domestically, we need strong leadership. We need strong leadership to get over to the British Parliament and to the British people that we need to increase responsibility towards our own defence. We've got to find the money, despite whatever else Rachel Reeves would like to do in the budget, to increase our defence expenditure to that 3.5% figure that they've talked about, not by 2035, but ideally by the end of this decade, and even sooner if that was possible, to make sure that we can have a sufficient combat power, not to be able to fight and win a war, but to deter a war. And frankly, Vladimir Putin, if he gets anything like the peace agreement that Donald Trump appears to be forcing President Zelensky to accept, places us Europeans in a very difficult position.
Well, I was just having a look at my notes here just to find out exactly what John Healey, the Defence Secretary, said last week in response to the news that there had been that Russian Yantar vessel in UK waters. And the suspicion is that they are trying to track our own underseas cables. And they carry more than 90% of all communications between the UK and the rest of the world. Now, John Healey said in a direct message to Russia, Lord Dannatt, and its leader, Vladimir Putin, "We see you, we know what you're doing, and if the Yantar travels south this week, we are ready." But you're saying we're not ready.
Well, we might be ready in the narrow tactical sense of knowing where that Russian spy ship is and what actions we might take locally to deter it. And of course, such local actions, if they were robust enough, might well have a significant effect and send a significant message to the Kremlin. But in the widest sense, we're not ready. Keir Starmer, who is doing his best as our Prime Minister to work with other European leaders to bring some cohesion to Europe over the issue of Ukraine, has talked about leading a coalition of the willing. That's fine, but is it a coalition of the ready? And I think the answer has to be no. And if, as is possible, President Zelensky does not go along with the Trump peace plan, such that Trump says, well, frankly, Ukraine and you Europeans, you can go your own way, and we Americans are going to take less interest in Europe, then the emphasis comes much more on us Europeans having to protect our own security. And you can't get away from the fact that security comes from expenditure, and this country, amongst other countries, has got to rapidly increase its defence expenditure to make sure we've got the military capability in space, in the air, on land, at sea, under the sea, to make sure that we can deter future aggression from Russia. I mean, you mentioned that Russian spy ship. Yes, of course, it's examining the undersea cables. And we're very vulnerable as a nation, and we are an island, which is a strength, but it's also, as an island, it's our vulnerability. So much of our communications, our supplies come across the sea, but come from under the sea as well. So there are many issues that have got to be faced. And we need strong leadership and a commitment to defence expenditure being increased. Frankly, I'm not holding my breath to see what's going to happen in the budget on Wednesday, but I hope that there will be a significant outcry if there is not new money put into defence on Wednesday, that this must be addressed in the future and addressed very quickly.
You believe that the current government trajectory risks a preparing to fight a war in 10 years that could come within 5. Can you explain what you mean by that, Lord Dannatt? Because I think, there are commentators in the papers today, including somebody like Peter Hitchens, who says, this is all very hysterical. Let's be honest, the Russians haven't managed to take Kharkov, and that's 10 miles from the border. And between us, the Europeans spend 3 times as much as the Russians on defence. So this is actually unnecessarily scaremongerish.
Well, Peter Hitchens and I often don't agree on things, so I hear what you say, I hear what he says. But the fact remains that we don't want to have a military large enough to be able to fight and win a war against Vladimir Putin. But we do need to signal to him that we take our own security very seriously, and that he can see that we've got a military capability across all the environments that is sufficient to deter. Now, why various commentators say there is a danger that we might have a conflict with Russia by the end of this decade, as opposed to sometime in the next decade, is that if there is anything like a ceasefire, whether it's a good one or a bad one, in Ukraine anytime soon, this is going to give the opportunity for the Russians to reconstitute their military forces and to press somewhere else. They might not decide in the short term to press against Ukraine, but Vladimir Putin, his strategic objective has always been to split the cohesion of NATO, to split the cohesion of the West. So he might choose to probe in the Baltic states, he might choose to probe somewhere else along the border that other countries have with Russia, in order to test the strength of Article 5 of the North Atlantic Treaty. An attack on one is an attack on all. And if he presses, let's say, against Lithuania, and there is no response, he'll be achieving great success in his own mind because he's driven a wedge into the heart of the cohesion of NATO. That's what we have to absolutely ensure, that we stand together, that we accept that America is going to play a less significant part in European security. Nevertheless, we must keep Europe, we must keep America involved, but us Europeans have got to step up to the plate and replicate and replace the capabilities that the United States is currently providing NATO and the collective security of Europe.
Is that one of the dangers of this peace deal that's being thrashed out as we speak, Lord Dannatt? Michael Portillo was on earlier doing the newspapers saying that he feared it conceded too much, both on territory but also on the issue of leaving Ukraine comparatively defenceless. If you are in Lithuania or Estonia or any of these surrounding countries, you may justifiably be worried.
Well, yes, I think that is right. I think that the particular difficulty here is Lithuania or the Baltic states are NATO members, and therefore they are bound and helped by the collective agreement in Article 5 of the NATO agreement. The problem that comes for Ukraine is that if we were to go along, or Zelensky was forced to go along with reducing his armed forces, giving up the 4 Donbass provinces, agreeing that Ukraine would be neutral, would give up its ambition to join NATO, Ukraine is then in a very vulnerable position. Now, he will want security guarantees from European countries, and here is the real danger. If we give European countries give security guarantees to Ukraine in the same way we did to Poland in the 1930s, and if Russia then attacks Ukraine again, we will be bound to join in that conflict. And that is where the real danger lies, that we could be sucked in to a wider European conflict. So getting the right deal for Ukraine is absolutely essential, and increasing our defence expenditure so that we can show to Putin that we take our own security seriously and we are powerful enough to deter any adventurism from him. And it's not just our hard power, Camilla. It's a tragedy that we've cut our soft power capability by cutting our development aid. It's really important that we try and go upstream of issues with development spending to head off other issues across the world. It's a multifaceted problem, but our leadership has got to really grip it and understand it.
Well, has Nigel Farage made a mistake there in announcing on Tuesday that they want to cut the aid budget by nearly $9 billion?
Well, if he cuts it by nearly $9 billion, he's virtually cut it completely out. Rather like Peter Hitchens, I don't necessarily agree with all that Nigel Farage says. He's got some good points and some less good points. But I firmly believe that it's a strategic error of considerable proportion to have cut our overseas aid budget from 0.7% of GDP to just 3%, to 0.3%, which it is now, because the money that the UK was spending around the world was helping prevent other problems which result in migration. That migration becomes people crossing the channel into small boats into this country. There are direct causal links between something like cutting the development aid and actually people coming across the channel, creating the problem that everyone is wrestling with on migration.
Reform want to cut it to 0.1%. So you think that's a grave error?
Camilla, I do. And I think if Nigel Farage really thought about it, I think he would think it was a grave error too. He must look for other ways to try and find more money for the other things that we need in this country, particularly hard power and defence.
All right, Lord Dannatt, we need to leave it there, but thank you very much and good luck with your Bevin lecture in the week.
Thanks, Camilla.
Thank you. A Ministry of Defence spokesman said this week the Defence Secretary outlined his plans to bolster the UK's warfighting readiness, keeping Britain secure at home and strong abroad. Choices taken by the Chancellor at the upcoming budget will ensure no return to the hollowed-out and underfunded armed forces of the past as we continue the biggest sustained increase in defence spending since the Cold War, allowing us to invest in the modern capabilities to keep the country safe. Well, coming up next, businessman and peer Lord Moyahan will join me in the studio to give his predictions on the next budget. Brace yourselves. Should you be perhaps hiding some money under the sofa, just in case? This is the Camilla Tominey Show, only on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. A cold and frosty start across the far north of Scotland. Elsewhere, a day of heavy blustery showers, though we are expecting it to brighten up nicely into this afternoon. For most, though, it is going to be a very wet start, some heavy downpours at times. Eventually, any rain will clear its way into the North Sea, allowing it to brighten up across many areas of England and Wales, but there will still be some showers, particularly across the west, so a day of sunshine and showers. But across Northern Ireland, Ireland, parts of Scotland, perhaps some parts of northern England too. Plenty of cloud around and still plenty of showery outbreaks. Feeling quite cold across the northern half of the UK, but highs across the south reaching between 10 to 12 degrees Celsius, so a little bit above average for the time of year. Still plenty of showers in the west to end the day, and also some quite strong gusty winds pushing through into the Bristol Channel. A very unsettled end to the day too across Northern Ireland, northern parts of Wales and England. Plenty of cloud and some showery outbreaks, and fairly similar across parts of Scotland too. So it is going to remain fairly unsettled as we progress through into this evening. Now, low pressure is the reason for this quite changeable weather, and it will eventually push into the North Sea, and with it we do start to see a change in our wind direction, so we'll return to a more northerly flow of air. So it is going to be feeling a bit chillier once again as we head our way into Monday, and still very unsettled, still plenty of showers across the country. Lots of cloud though, so remaining mostly frost-free for a time, but it is going to still be remaining quite chilly as we begin the new working week. So lots of cloud around to start, but this should lift and break through the course of the morning, allowing some sunshine to develop mainly across inland areas, because that brisk northerly wind once again dragging in some showers, so mostly around coastal areas is where we'll see some spells of rain. It will start to feel that bit chillier once again, highs reaching around 9 degrees Celsius, so if you do see any sunshine, you have to wrap up warm to enjoy it.
Britain's economy is at a crossroads.
And this budget day, every decision counts.
From taxes and rent to the cost of living.
Whatever the outcome, the GB News family will be there
with expert analysis breaking down what it means for you.
Budget day, all day Wednesday.
Only here on the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised. I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. The businessman and Conservative peer Lord Moyahan joins me now. Very successful businessman in his own right. Worth quite a lot of dosh, actually, John, if you don't mind me saying. Why are you still here? You could have left. You could have gone to Dubai. Florence is nice at this time of year, I understand, John.
Indeed.
You stuck with it.
Well, I think that's the decision every person with wealth that they've made in good ways and wants to protect that wealth, that's the decision everybody's trying to make. I took the decision, I'm in the House of Lords, I need to do whatever small amount I can do to help this country, and so leaving, wasn't an option at this point. And, so I just want to stay and suck it up, because I will be hit.
What's the worst fear that you have about Wednesday then? Because she's flirting with all sorts of things. I mean, we've had mass pitch rolling of this budget. Have you ever known anything like it?
Well, I think we're all fairly clear about what's going to happen. There's going to be a large hit on middle earners, which apparently includes, senior nurses and doctors and all of that. They're saying these are not working persons or something weird like that.
I think you're a working person if you earn up to 46 grand.
Exactly.
Which, as I've pointed out, means that the Chancellor and the Prime Minister, all MPs and ministers aren't working people. No. You're not, I'm not. Head teachers aren't, doctors aren't.
Yes.
I mean, it's just preposterous, isn't it?
Well, I'm not a working person at all because I don't take any money from being in the House of Lords, so I don't really have an income. So I probably I deserve
claim
benefits.
Extra benefits.
Oh,
yes,
absolutely, yes. But anyway, so they're going to do that, but at the same time they're going to put out some dosh for freezing railway fares. Of course, railway fares have been going up because they paid all those train drivers so much at the beginning.
Still going on strike.
So now you're making the railway companies pay a lot of money but not get a lot of money from fares. So who's going to pay the loss? the taxpayer.
It's going to be us. But it's OK because we're not working people.
Exactly.
So Middle England's going to be clobbered.
Yes.
What do we think about this mansion tax? I mean, that's the nickname for it. What she's talking about is a readjustment of council tax bands. Although I did have a correspondent, thank you to that person who contacted me in the week, having watched my GB News show last week, saying you've got to be particularly careful in the north if you're tinkering with council tax bands, because actually lower value homes end up falling into the Fs and the Gs and the Hs.
Absolutely.
Apparently. So this hasn't been very thought through, has it?
And what's more, if you get down into London, you've got people who are now retired who bought their house for a very low amount in the 70s or so. They might have paid like £10,000 or £50,000, and now it's worth £1 million. And they haven't got any income. So basically you're saying to all those people living retired in the house they bought when they were working, you're going to have to sell your house because you won't be able to afford this increased band, and you're going to have to move out of where you've lived for most of your life. So there's going to be a significant migration. But here's the problem. Nobody's buying these houses.
No.
There is a complete strike on house buying in London right now.
Yes. Well, maybe train drivers can, but everybody else. But the point is as well, I was thinking about this the other day, if we've got inheritance tax also being clobbered, and we have everything that's gone on with farms and indeed inherited businesses, actually the only feasible way to solve generational wealth issues, whether you live in a mansion or whether your parents or grandparents bought their council house back in the 80s, is to pass on your home to your children.
Yes.
We hear that children aren't saving for pensions, teenagers, 20-somethings. They don't have enough spare cash, barely have enough spare cash to live. Therefore, if you're going to clobber property, you're actually adversely affecting the young eventually. It sounds like you're affecting boomers, but you're actually affecting the generations down, aren't you?
Well, at the highest level of abstraction, if we go back, we know what you have to do to get the economy going. You have to cut what you're spending. And they have to cut their spending by about a third.
They can't do that, John, because it's mean. It's austerity.
It's mean, but more importantly, they won't get re-elected. But they're not going to get re-elected anyway, so it would be great if they could just do the nation one great big favour by really addressing these issues, rather than sort of trying to, put bonbons on a really disgusting tasting cake.
Yes.
The reason that this budget is allowed to be such a dog's dinner is because the OBR apparently are saying that the economy is going to grow faster than we thought it was going to.
Yes.
And therefore they say, oh, well, by 2029, Rachel, you're going to have lots of money so you can afford to give away money and you don't have to...
Is she going to have a lot more money?
No, of course not. The OBR has been wrong over and over again in predicting growth.
Why are we still listening to the OBR?
It's a very good question.
I thought because I get the impression from various chancellors that if the OBR says something they like the OBR.
Yes.
If the OBR says something they don't like, they want to scrap it.
Yes. The OBR has come up with this ludicrous story about how, Brexit has cost the economy 4% of GDP, which even when you read what they say, it doesn't actually say that. But then the Labour government can trumpet that and say it's not our fault, COVID, Brexit, all these things.
Liz Truss.
Liz Truss. Liz Truss, in fact, is the only person to have attempted to get it right.
But she expedited it very badly.
It was implemented very badly. But basically what happened was that Liz Truss didn't have 2/3 of her own MPs with her.
No.
And the House of Commons descended into a shambles as a result.
On Liz Truss and the gilt yield issue, because I know you're an expert on this, just roughly, without getting too granular, just for time reasons, is there much difference now with what the gilt yields are doing and borrowing under Rachel? Right. So what can we extrapolate?
They're higher, inflation's higher, everything's worse.
So everything is worse than the mini-budget?
But that was Liz Truss crashed the economy then, and now it's, well, nobody's saying that Labour crashed the economy, but they have.
Have they?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for sure that they've condemned it to a steady decline. And if the OBR is saying we're going to get more growth, I don't know what mushrooms they've been eating, but maybe we should ask for some.
Where do they think that the growth is derived from? More public sector pay increases?
Well, you do have a thing which Doug McWilliams called the flat white economy, which is a bunch of techie people around Shoreditch, London, the South, who are actually doing very well. And you can't say nothing in the British economy is going badly. The tech bros are doing quite well.
I know, but we could do with a big tech bro, couldn't we? I mean, we could do with an Apple or a Meta or whomever.
Indeed. And of course, we are encouraging companies to move abroad, to list in New York. Nobody wants to list here. If you list here, you have to have an ESG and a DEI statement saying how you're saving the weather and how you are doing equality and sustainability and all of that stuff. And you have to report to the stock exchange every year about how you're doing that. Now, if you had a company and you were thinking of listing it, or I did, and you were told, well, why don't you list in London? You can do all these wonderful things. You say, thanks, I'll go to New York.
Yes.
And that's what's happening.
Although the New York situation might change now that Mamdani's in charge.
Well, that's the New York Stock Exchange.
Yeah, I know, but then Mamdani might put people off from living in New York if, you know, rent controls are introduced and landlords are clobbered and all the rest of it. It could be an interesting dynamic out there, is all I'm saying.
Everybody's fleeing to Florida.
Florida's the place. I thought it was Florence because of the flat rate 200 grand tax that Maloney had introduced.
People are choosing to go to Dubai, to Milan or Florence, to Monte Carlo, to Miami.
The Chancellor's are denying this. She says there is no exodus.
That's bizarre. Today, we announced that Mittal, Lakshmi Mittal, that Britain's richest person, is leaving the country, and that's just an example. Everybody knows lots of people who are leaving.
OK. Final question, John. Regardless of whether you're a prince or a pauper, is there anything anyone can do to insulate themselves against the horror that may be wrought on November the 26th?
It's kind of a bit late. I mean, sell your house. If you try to sell your house, you certainly won't sell it by Wednesday, but you may not sell it at all. A lot of people are leaving just in case there is this exit tax, but I don't think there will be.
Maybe the only solution, if train fares have been frozen, is to perhaps just get a ticket to the seaside, have an ice cream and take stock. John Moynihan. Or failing that, maybe you could lend us a few bob if we're really hard up.
Mm-hmm.
John is looking at me with a degree of scepticism there. All right, look, obviously we will be covering the budget. It could be, by the way, that they have pitch-rolled this to make it seem so extreme and so nasty and awful that we perhaps might be pleasantly surprised on Wednesday. But, of course, stay tuned to GB News throughout the week and Wednesday itself, because all of our reporters will be out giving you every cough and spit. Thank you, Lord Moyahan, very much indeed.
Thank you, Camilla.
Coming up next, a bit of a change of tune. Maybe we can be a bit more hopeful. I'm going to be discussing the monarchy and the future of the monarchy with Robert Jobson, who's got a sensational new book out, and it's got some very juicy detail about what the late Queen really thought about Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. Stay tuned. I'll be back in just a jiffy.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. A cold and frosty start across the far north of Scotland. Elsewhere, a day of heavy blustery showers, though we are expecting it to brighten up nicely into this afternoon. For most, though, it is going to be a very wet start, some heavy downpours at times. Eventually, any rain will clear its way into the North Sea, allowing it to brighten up across many areas of England and Wales, but there will still be some showers, particularly across the west, so a day of sunshine and showers.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Dubes & Co. Weekdays from 6 p.m.
Great pleasure of speaking to a veteran, 100 years old, or 100 years young, shall I say, Jim Gettings. Let's take a listen to him. Let me just ask you this, Jim. You're wearing your sash. You're wearing your replacement beret, and I know that that beret was your original one, was something that you had to sell. Your little girl had whooping cough, and you had to sell all of your belongings to help try and pay for her care. You've made it now to the ripe old age of 100 years old. I'm so pleased to see you as well with your beret on. What's your secret to living to 100 years old?
Avoid dying.
Oh, Jim, I was hoping you was going to tell me to drink alcohol every day or something like that. Jim, can I just say, on behalf of the nation, we want to say, GB News, myself, GB News, all of our viewers, we want to say thank you for your service. We are incredibly grateful for men like you and for everything that you did to ensure that we can have the life that we got right now. So thank you.
Well, thank you for listening to me. And God bless everybody, because we're living in very bad times again, aren't we? So God bless. Bye-bye.
Oh, Jim, I mean, that just really touched me. Did you hear that sentence literally there towards the end? Thank you for listening to me. And I've got to say, I find it so important to try and talk to the veterans, to try and listen to that experience. It means so much to them that their experiences, memories and all the rest of it are passed down through the generations as well. What a guy.
GB News, the People's Channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Welcome back. Shall we have some light relief from budget woes? Although we have to speak about Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, so maybe not. I'm joined now by the royal journalist and author Robert Jobson. His new book now is out, The Windsor Legacy, a royal dynasty of secret, scandal and survival. Let's just quickly talk about the former Duke of York. Because of this PM intervention, he must talk to Congress. Must he?
No, he won't either. I mean, the reality is, I'm not quite sure what Starmer's getting involved with. I suppose, you know, the reality is someone's answered him a question and he's answered it like a lawyer, but there's no chance.
There's no compulsion. There's no legal compulsion on him at all. It's a moral obligation, if any.
And also, I think if anybody was advising him after watching him being interviewed on television, they'd say, don't go anywhere near it.
Apparently Fergie's planning a tell-all interview. Is this a good idea? I think she's more likely to write a book, isn't she?
Well, if I was her, I would write a book. I wouldn't necessarily do a tell-all interview because there's no long-term gain in that. I think that she's looking for the money, and then she should write the inside story.
Exactly.
But no, Andrew, I think he's not going to do it now.
If Fergie is watching, we'd quite happily interview you here on GB News. That's an open offer from me to you. Let's get into the revelations in the book, because, for instance, you talk about the Queen's relationship with Meghan and Harry, and it's just interesting intel, as ever, that you've managed to pick up. For instance, the late Queen objected to Prince Harry ringing her at a certain time. Why?
Because she was having tea. She always had tea at a certain time of the day, and everyone knows that you don't disturb the Queen when she was having her afternoon tea.
Harry must have known that.
Yeah, but I suppose he got confused with the time differences when he was ringing up.
Yes, good point. Yeah, all right. So he was disturbing her as she was having a cup of Earl Grey, and then she was also concerned about how much Meghan was spending on clothes.
Yeah, and I think she was probably right on that as well. I mean, she had a good barometer when it came to I think one dress on one tour was £60,000.
Oh, yeah, the Dior dress that she wore.
And that really wouldn't have... Even though, to be fair, you know, in the early days when the Queen was travelling and she had all those different dresses created for different tours, you know, you could argue that she was doing it herself. But I think that it just, at this time, she thought that's not the right message. And she was usually right on this thing.
Well, like Princess Anne, the Queen was a great recycler of clothes as well, whereas I'm not sure Meghan wore the same thing.
The more I think about what happened with Meghan and Harry at the beginning, I think I blame more Harry, because I think that she probably, maybe she didn't listen, but I do think that she should have been better advised, better handled, better dealt with. Really.
But the feeling that you give in the book is that the Queen was well aware that when they were phoning, what they were really asking for was one thing, dosh.
Money, yeah.
Is that true?
That's true, and I think also the King got fed up, or Charles, when he was the Prince of Wales, got fed up too, you know, when he remarked, "I'm not a bank." I mean, you know, so, I mean, I think most... I think that's something we're all familiar with.
I think any parents...
I think it's the amount of zeros involved that was
That's
a worry.
right, yeah. It's one thing asking for a tenner for a Nando's. It's quite another asking for hundreds of thousands of pounds. What's the truth about them calling their daughter Lilibet? Did the Queen know or not?
I think, to be fair to Meghan and Harry, they did speak to her about it. I think they said, we want to name our daughter after you, but she assumed that meant their daughter would be called Elizabeth. The actual whether and then left it, and then it was not discussed. And so when she read about it being Lilibet, I think she was quite, well, not only surprised but slightly annoyed because.
So you think she only first found out that it was Lilibet
by the media? Yeah, by it coming out in the papers.
Yeah. So she wasn't annoyed, but she was upset, or she was affronted. What do you think?
Well, it's a personal nickname that her mum and dad and her granddad and her sister would use for her. It was a name that's personal to her. So I think it was quite different being called Lilibet to being called Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Lilibet was really it's her legacy, really. It's one of the things that she was called. And I think she was probably a little irritated that she didn't know. The one thing that the Queen always wanted was to know what was happening.
Yeah, of course.
And to be fair, though, I think there may have just been a bit of a misunderstanding.
A bit of a communication breakdown.
Hence why both said that one side said, oh, no, we did tell her. And the other
I know. There was an interesting briefing all at the time about that particular story. Tell me about the relationship between Charles and William, because you raise a few concerns that it's been a bit testy in the past. I think you're basically suggesting that, funny enough, Charles got on better with Harry than William, but...
No, I think he did. No, my understanding from people I spoke to is the King and Harry had a pretty good relationship. They were fairly got on very many issues. They were, perhaps Harry's a little bit more, I know it seems hard to think now, but a bit more laid back.
Yeah.
I think with William, there was always issues, bigger issues, which always seems to be a clash between a monarch and an heir. You know, things like, what are they going to do in the future? Even now, I think there's that clash, even though they have certainly... there's the King understanding with the King knows that going forward, William will be the lead. He will take the lead when it comes to the direction of the monarchy. But he doesn't necessarily agree with that royalty with a small r. I think that from what I understand, his feeling would be that you mustn't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You mustn't change too much for the pomp, the pageantry, the tradition. We just saw it at work, didn't we, with Trump at the Great Hall in Windsor, where the soft power diplomacy was very in evidence and worked very well. In a way, if you limit too much, then you start to be rejected by the people that are your supporters, and you're not really appealing to these people that actually don't want you anyway. You're just, you know...
Well, you're losing some of the magic, and then people are going to ask themselves, what's the point? What's the deal with William not wanting to wear a kilt, which I would imagine is a central part of his future life as king?
Well, it's only there... I think the falling out is that, of course, the King has always been aware, as when he was the Prince of Wales, he was Lord of the Isles as well, that there's a whole industry in the making the kilts, making the tarts, making everything that's important.
Yes.
And it keeps a lot of people in work in Scotland and in the Isles in particular. And if you're not wearing that as the Lord of the Isles, he thinks that's you're turning your back.
What's William's objection? Is it wearing the skirt?
It itches, I don't know.
Not wearing underwear? I don't know.
I don't know, but he doesn't like it.
He thinks it's a gimmick or something?
I don't understand why he doesn't wear it. But
he went to university in St Andrews.
But I don't think we've really seen him in a kilt very much, have we?
No, we haven't.
No.
That's a very good observation. And also, Queen Camilla. Now, you said that when she saw the video that William and Kate made after they had cancer, she called it a shampoo commercial.
Well, she would like a shampoo commercial, and I think that it was very much a joke. It was very much, I mean...
She likes a joke, doesn't she?
They like... I mean, Camilla and Queen Camilla and Catherine get on very well. But so I think when they saw it... I mean, she wasn't alone in that remark.
No,
a lot of people...
it was very glossy.
But it wasn't meant in any way, in a harmful way, but in a joke, you know. It was a Camilla joke.
I love it. Robert Jobson, we need to leave it there. I've got in my ear, we've got to wrap up. But your book, The Windsor Legacy, is out now. I'm going to be back tomorrow. No, I'm not. I'm going to be back next week. I'm going to be at the Telegraph tomorrow, continuing with my 7-day working week. Whether I'm a working person or not, we'll find out on Wednesday. Do follow the budget coverage on GB News. I'm back next week, and you're going to have Michael Portillo now after the weather. Have a great rest of your Sunday.
get warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Well, it's a mixed picture out there. We have an area of low pressure bringing rain and showers in the north, but it is actually going to be turning much brighter in the south and east. So an area of low pressure situated to the northwest of the UK, a real squeeze in the isobars across Northern Ireland, indicating some strong winds here. But otherwise, across Scotland, especially north of the central belt, that's where we're going to see outbreaks of rain and hill snow. Further rain across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, but to the south of that across Wales, southwest England, it's